Hey there, YouTube. We're going to go ahead and get started with a big fat Ukraine update. There's a lot of shit going on. Hopefully we'll get a Dennis update, or at the very least a Russian dude update near the end. We got lots of combat footage near the end as well, and just basic coverage of what's going on. Of course, lots of focus right now in Bakhmut, but there's also a lot of activities happening in the south and further to the north, I think, if that's where the compass lies, in that direction. But either way, action happening all across the border, so we're going to be covering that. So welcome. Let's get started. You know, I know, Sky News, but I've actually really been enjoying their Ukraine segments. So I really like to start the stream off with them. Grain of salt, though. Sky News, guys, come on. Let's, Sky News, come on. Sky News, come on.
Russia's been using the Shahed 136 drone, shown here. Russia's been using the Shahed 136 drone, shown here, to attack targets across the energy infrastructure across the whole of Ukraine. That seems to pause on the 17th of November, but restarted again just the other day. Almost certainly that was a result of a resupply from Iran. We understand that an Iranian cargo aircraft landed at Moscow just 2 days ago. Russia's been running very short of weapons, not only these...
I don't blame Iran, though, What do we want them to do? Work with the U.S.? Their faces are literally soaked from our spit. You know what I mean? We go out of our way to shit on Iran, left and right over here. So of course they're going to help our, our opposition on the global stage. Still amazed that Ukrainians could fly drones hundreds of miles in Russian airspace without alerting. Yeah, well, you're not the only one amazed that Ukraine was able to get away with that. I mean, to me, that's just proof. That's proof of exactly what I've been saying, which is Russia isn't scared about an invasion. They don't think NATO's going to invade from any angle. They don't think a European country is going to invade. They don't think they know they're going to be perfectly fine and secure in their massive borders that already exist. They know that. And there's no worry. They don't have to worry about that. They're just as much worried about an invasion as the United States was worried about an invasion when we blew up Iraq and Afghanistan. Oh, yeah, got to get them over there before they get us over here. Okay, Hannity.
These drones, but also short-range ballistic missiles, range of about 500 kilometers with about a 500-kilogram warhead. Now, Iran's been very happy to provide support for this. The question is, what does it want in return?
Yeah.
Clearly, Iran does want an equitable part.
Davies pointing out that Russia has left the Finnish and Baltic border manned with skeleton crews. Of course, they have. There's no legitimate concern of an invasion. Don't believe the fucking hype. If there's a hammer and sickle motherfucker on social media trying to make that claim, hit mute. Hit mute. It's done. The discussion's over with. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that Russia, that there's an impending invasion about to happen, that if Russia were to leave, it's ridiculous. And they know it. They know it. They've been acting from a position of power from the very beginning, and they know where NATO really stands. Okay, when it comes to that. Yes, NATO is absolutely aggressive, putting missiles and bases all around Russia, but they know that there isn't going to be a land invasion. They fucking know.
Partnership, but Russia has offered Su-35 multi-role fighter aircraft, it's offered helicopters, and also surface-to-air missile systems and protection. Most worrying, it's also offered help with its fledgling nuclear program. All of this has very worrying implications for stability around the local region. Of course, we return to a focus of events on the ground, actually in Ukraine itself. The Russian priority remains the Donbass region here, and particularly focus around Bakhmut, which have been trying to encircle for many weeks, north, east and south, but they've not managed to take the west. Very difficult to get detailed information about what's happening here because the Ukraine and Russian version of events do differ. But it is described as a hellhole, and certainly President Zelensky described Bakhmut as being in ruins. From a Ukrainian perspective, they tend to be focused on just north of Stavratova, trying to cut off the logistic supply lines of Russia down to Bakhmut. And if we zoom out, Ukraine is also trying to do exactly the same thing down in Kherson. The Russian forces that to the east of the Dnipro River here, cutting off the logistic supply lines, and literally only the other day, 3 ammunition dumps were destroyed, and also 20 military vehicles. Looking more strategically, though, winter may have arrived. It may have slowed the tempo of operations. However, then the conflict is no nearer ending. It hasn't stopped Putin hinting that he was ready to negotiate when he's actually got no intention of doing that at all. It clearly is trying to put pressure on President Zelensky, make him appear to blame. In reality, this war is not just being fought on the battlefields, it's also being fought in the information domain. And it shows the real importance of making sure we take nothing at face value.
Yes, exactly. Just a quick report from Sky News. Moving on. Sorry. Thought we'd get a contrast that, Sky News update with a France 24 update. War in Ukraine, Russia shelling in Donetsk.
The city of Donetsk is reeling from the latest barrage of shelling. Several buildings belonging to the University of Economics, including this one, were heavily damaged by the onslaught. Larissa has been working at the university for 30 years, and she's devastated as she inspects the damage.
It was always clean here, nice and cozy. It was a small but caring facility. Everybody loved it.
Elsewhere in the Donetsk region, in the Ukrainian-controlled city of Kurakhov, police videos are showing the destructive aftermath of relentless shelling. The videos show the city center was severely damaged. The Ukrainian authorities say that the Russian shelling has killed at least 10 people and slammed the latest attack on the civilian population.
The Russian army hit Kurakhov, a very brutal and absolutely calculated attack which targeted peaceful people, ordinary people, in markets, gas stations, train stations, and residential buildings.
The Donetsk region has seen some of the most intense fighting since Russia's invasion began nearly a year ago. The Kremlin wants full control of the provinces of
That Crimean bridge, the Kerch Bridge, that's got to be getting attacked very soon. The closer they get to Melitopol, the more likely we're going to see that bridge hit with standard artillery.
Donetsk and Luhansk that make up the Donbass, but remains unclear about its intentions in other regions. Vladimir Putin has even expressed his willingness to reach an agreement.
We will have to find an agreement eventually. And I have said it many times. We are willing to find arrangements. We are open.
Ramjam is asking about peace talks. Hey, ask Putin. Ask Putin. Putin's idea of a peace talk is give me literally everything and let me declare victory. That's what his conditions for peace are. You give us the annexed regions, including Crimea. All the regions that they have no control over. They don't have 100% control over any of them. And they're about to have, less than 100% control over Crimea. That is Putin's condition for peace. Outrageous. Outrageous. Okay? So to the hammer and sickle lefties that are hand-waving away this entire conflict and just pithily saying we need to stop supporting Ukraine, right? Until you give me a solid argument as to why we need to treat Putin as a good actor, as someone who's not lying to us, it has been nothing but lies. This is like U.S. during the Iraq War buildup, nonstop stream of lies, and then and he's still trying to live in an alternate reality.
But we have to know who we're dealing with.
In an unending tug of war for eastern Ukraine, Kyiv's forces control about 40% of the Donetsk region and have reclaimed a small part of Luhansk.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. And I thought we would get, so we got UK mainstream media, we got France mainstream media. Now let's get Al Jazeera. I think it's not fair to call Al Jazeera mainstream. It also doesn't seem fair to call it like an indie news either. What would be the term for a like a Democracy Now or an Al Jazeera? You know what I mean? Like I guess Democracy Now kind of fits indie news classification, but I don't know. I guess Al Jazeera government, because it is sponsored by government entities. It's funded by the Qatari government. So I guess it does have that angle. Yeah. Okay. All right. alternative news. Yeah, it's not alternative either, though. I'm alternative news. You know what I mean? Like I'm not funded by the Qatari government, right? And if I was, you would have every right to be like, okay, well, everything he says is, we need to put through that lens, right? Latest update, Zelensky says Russia reduced Bakhmut city to a burned ruin. And we've seen this. So Russia doesn't have precision-guided munitions in large quantities. They do have some of these things, right? And they use them to blow up important military targets like playgrounds and hospitals and pediatric centers. Places that are really going to stop the Ukrainian military's advance. So they do have some of those things, but for the most part, they got World War II era artillery, and they just sling it. They just sling it 24/7. Like, I've been working on the railroad, like just literally all day, all night, artillery. And that's the strategy, is just saturate, bombard, terrorize. Ukraine is able to work around that. And because the Russians aren't as good at shooting and scooting as they should be, they often leave themselves wide open to get creamed, and they often do. Anyway, let's get Al Jazeera's opinion on this situation.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says to other world news now, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian forces have destroyed the eastern city of Bakhmut, turning it into what he described as burnt ruins. Fighting has reportedly intensified around the city in the Donetsk region. Zelensky says the situation remains very difficult in several frontline cities. Bakhmut was home to 72,000 people. It became a main military target for Moscow in August. It's the only major area of the front line where Russian forces are still trying to advance. For more on this, let's bring in Rory Challens, who joins me live now from Kyiv. Hello there, Rory. What more can you tell us about these latest developments?
Well, the extraordinary thing about the fight for Bakhmut at the moment is that despite the fact that this city is pretty much, as we just heard there, in ruins, there are still civilians in the town trying to eke out an existence amongst the rubble.
Come on, how, man? How, dude? What the fuck are you even doing? Get out of there. What the fuck? Are you serious? How? I just don't even understand it.
Living in basements, doing what they can to survive the onslaught. This fight has been going on, as you just said there, for months, with the Russians seemingly hell-bent on taking Bakhmut and launching wave after wave, recently at least, of full frontal assaults. And it has a lot of people scratching their heads, trying to work out why do the Russians want Bakhmut so much. It doesn't seem to have much strategic value. Now, of course, you can flip that question and you can say, well, if it doesn't have that much strategic value, why are the Ukrainians defending it so hard? It seems perhaps as if attrition is the key, that both sides, the Ukrainians and the Russians, are just trying to inflict as many deaths, as many casualties on their enemies as they possibly can. That killing
and there's no way it's 1-to-1. There's no way it's 1-to-1. Like I'm going to go out on a limb here and just assume that it's probably like 2-to-1 when it comes to Ukrainian deaths versus Russian. But I would like to see the numbers, because I would definitely be horrified even further if it was truly 1-to-1. But I'm almost certain it's at least 2-to-1 when it comes to Ukrainian versus Russian. They're sending fresh-faced, calling your mother, telling you they're having sex with your mother, playing Valorant 2 weeks ago, plucking these poor sons of bitches out and throwing them in the front lines, and it's a tragedy. They get cut down immediately, or they get a drone bomb dropped on them. Starving, cold, don't know where to shoot. I mean, Dave, if you watch the combat footage, if you watch the not safe for work stuff, I see scared, freezing, ill-equipped human beings that are just dying in the most tragic ways possible. And that's the wave after wave that they're sending into Bakhmut. It is the disregard for human life and their own people is I don't think I've ever seen anything like it, quite frankly.
Is the point, grinding the enemy down. It really is hellish fighting. I was speaking to a soldier yesterday who was here in Kiev to recover from a concussion that he had received because of an artillery shell that exploded nearby. He was just out of hospital, and he was saying that in the fighting recently, he'd been surviving on 3 hours sleep a night for a week at a time. He'd had one ration pack for 5 days of fighting on the front lines. It's grim stuff there that is going on in Bakhmut. Now, there, of course, is other fighting going on. We have heard that there were drone strikes launched by the Russians yesterday at cities and targets across the south of the country. Odessa particularly badly hit. Now, there has been some speculation about these Iranian drones. Do they work well in cold weather, with some suggesting that they're not equipped to fly in sub-zero temperatures, others suggesting that because we've seen strikes recently, they must have been adapted by the Russians to work better in sub-zero zones. Well, we've had a bit of clarification recently from the the Ukrainian Air Command, saying that because the temperature has been above zero in the south recently, that's why we've seen more of these Iranian.
World War II, Stalingrad, this is not. It's been a very mild winter, comparatively. It gets fucking crazy cold out there, and don't get me wrong, it's still cold as shit out there. But apparently, comparatively, it's not the most harsh winter.
Drone strikes used by the Russians. The Ukrainians have been hitting back with drone strikes of their own in Crimea overnight. We don't quite know of the success of those yet. We do know of more success that the Ukrainians have had with likely HIMARS strikes. Now, HIMARS is this precision rocket system that the Americans gave to the Ukrainians and other Western partners gave to the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians have been using very successfully over recent months. It looks like they use HIMARS to hit various targets in occupied territory, particularly Melitopol, which is a southern occupied city with a base housing Russian troops there, burning overnight. The Ukrainians say as many as 200 Russian personnel were at that base when it was struck.
All right, we really appreciate the update, as always. Rory Challens, live for us there in Kyiv. Yuri Sak is an advisor to the Ukrainian Minister of Defence. He explains why Russian forces have been so persistent in their advance of Bakhmut.
The reason why their attacks are so fierce and in many ways, difficult to explain, because they have lost thousands of Russian soldiers trying to take control of Bakhmut. Now, the main reason, of course, is that in the second half of this year, the Russian army has not had any success on the battlefield. The last city that they took control of was Lysychansk. And since then, it was only backwards for them. These attempts to encircle the city were doomed, and the Russian army fled from Kharkiv region. So,
okay, there we go, computer. So Ram Jam said, I don't think he's going to give in to NATO or the West. And yeah, no, he's not going to give in to NATO or the West, but he's not going to have a choice. That's the position that the Western allies are putting Russia in. All right. And they're putting their foot down, and Ukraine sees this as a genuine opportunity for true independence, to truly separate themselves from this. Because Russia is okay with Ukraine existing as long as there's a Russian puppet, a pro-Russian puppet, pretending to be in charge, right? But hint, hint, nudge, nudge, we're really Russia, right? He's okay with that, but he's not okay with Ukraine being a completely separate, autonomous country that makes its own decisions. And, and here we are. Welcome back, Krayla Zanath. Thank you, Woke Patriot. I should take some time to maybe do some Allen Ginsberg one of these days. I do find some of these super associated with America. Like you think of I think of Norman Rockwell when I think of Allen Ginsberg, and I feel like a lot of their celebrity was from their, jingoism around World War II and, being, strongly against fascism and the greatest war and all that. I feel like some of those authors kind of blew up really big because they were just like the loudest and most eloquent voices, you know, being like pro World War II, you know. I don't know though. Although Soviet Union at the time, 27 million. Clearly you're better read. That's an interesting quote. That's an interesting quote by Allen Ginsberg. By the way, let me just give you some context. Woke Patriot, while this video is going, he's quoted Allen Ginsberg saying, "The Russia wants to eat us alive. The Russia's power mad. She wants to take our cars from out our garages." And, you know, Woke Patriot is very keen to remind us that it's very, very easy to slip into, you know, this, you know, anti-Russia, nationalist kind of, you know, cancer kind of disease, this virus of nationalism. And we lefties, this is the burden of the left. We do need to find ways to criticize countries and empires without dehumanizing and vilifying the human beings that live there. Because not everyone agrees with Putin, right, in Russia. I think that's very fair to say. We've seen the evidence. We've seen the 1420 videos. There's plenty of people that are not on board on this. So it is very, we should be careful to fall into that sweet, saccharine, you know, a warm apple pie feeling of America is the best. And you know what? Fuck Russia. You know what? You know, Russia doesn't even deserve to be on this planet. And you know what I mean? Like, we're just so much better than Russia. And it's really easy to fall into that incredibly dangerous nationalism. And that's what we do try to avoid that on the News Underground. The way that you avoid that is with context and nuance and being very clear. But it's also rather boring and not very snappy, right? Because I've kind of put the stream, you know, right on halt to offer some nuance and babble on. Pale Boat, hello.
It is indeed trying to get success for the sake of success, but the city does not have any.
Ukraine, if they can't fight their own battles, they lose. We fought for our own country. We don't fight for them. You sound a little butthurt. Oh, you know, we gave all our tools to the Afghanistan military. To the Afghanistan government and military, we gave them training and weapons, and we gave them everything they needed. And that was kind of a whoopsies. Oh boy, you know what I mean? Yeah, who is we? The U.S. doesn't fight its own battles by themselves. It often doesn't. But that's not the case with Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq. I mean, we had some coalition forces, but, you know, it was Americans at the tip of that spear.
Strategic importance. Moreover, what needs to be said is they are using now in Bakhmut the same tactics they've used before in cities like Mariupol, like Rubizhne. So they are raising it to the ground. It's a barrage of artillery fire, day in, day out. They are throwing their soldiers, you know, both regular army, the Wagner group, the so-called Wagner group, the newly mobilized. They're dying there in hundreds on a daily basis. So it is very difficult to comprehend what they're trying to achieve. They need badly some success, because otherwise they will meet 1 year of this war without anything to show to their own people.
Oops. Yeah, Davey.
World News Now and
yeah, Davey. Davey over here pointing out the U.S. Led one of the largest coalitions ever created to invade Iraq. Yeah, because that was, you know, the only time the article whatever of NATO was engaged was when when the U.S. invaded Iraq after 9/11. Ram Jam with an interesting question: do you see NATO and the EU as part of the U.S. UN empire? I see NATO as part of the U.S. UN empire. I think the EU is on board for a lot of it, but I think, you know, obviously with Germany and many other examples that, you know, there's not unanimity on everything, especially when it comes to United States military interventionism, right? That, you know, Germany had no part in, or as little part as humanly possible. They probably did have some NATO obligations that they had to fulfill, but other than that, they were not interested in helping the United States illegally invade countries, right? So I think the EU is less so. you know, in the bag in the U.S. empire. I think that would be overgeneralizing to say that, you know, that the United States just has control over the EU and the UK. Like, nah. It's a cliche to say war has changed in the last few decades, but it is true. The idea of U.S. fighting its won battles is archaic. I mean, here's the thing, though, guys. Ukraine is winning because Ukraine wants it. Okay? And Iraq and Afghanistan didn't work because they didn't want democracy. They didn't want peace. They didn't want any of it. Right? They wanted their insane sectarian tribal government nonsense. That's what they wanted. We came in swinging our dick around, pretending like that's what we wanted to accomplish, was some kind of democracy. Of course we didn't want to accomplish that. It was a fucking gangbang for the military-industrial complex and little else. It's not a democracy building project. So as soon as we got out of Afghanistan, and by the way, we're still in Iraq, but as soon as we got out of Afghanistan, the entire fucking kit and caboodle collapsed because they didn't want it. What are we fighting for? I don't know. Some American idea of democracy I've never really truly believed in. Yeah, fuck that. I could sell this weapon and armor for a couple hundred, whatever the fucks. Right? Ukraine wants it. That's the difference here. So if the lesson being learned by the pro-NATO, pro-Western, you know, the supporters and governments, if the lesson being learned here is that military interventionism can, you know, works every time and that it's a great strategy, no. It's hyper dependent. It is incredibly dependent on who's being helped and what the context is, right? Oftentimes, 9 times out of 10, throwing a bunch of weapons and money into the situation doesn't help anything, right? And the peaceniks on the left and the Code Pinks of the world have it right on that. Not, you know, the Chris Hedges of the world have it right on that. 9 times out of 10, but here's that one example. Here's that anomalous moment, right? Where they want it, they're using the tools and training to their advantage. They don't have you know, because like they don't have a desire to invade Russia and take over Russia. Because what happens when we ask Israel to go fuck up Iran? You don't think Israel is going to want to take a little piece of that? You know what I mean? We don't have to worry about that. This is completely anomalous from what would normally happen when we're throwing weapons and money at the situation. Normally, it doesn't go down this smooth, right? So I hope the lesson that isn't, you know, I just hope the lesson that isn't being learned here is that, you know, the military industrial complex can just make it fucking happen and make it work and, you know, let the CIA do its thing and they know exactly what they're doing. No. But in this case, this is exactly the right move. Moving on. Countering Russian narratives and documenting war crimes in Ukraine. This is amazing. This is amazing. The effort being put into documenting specific Russian war crimes I've never seen before. One of the main reasons why we don't see this happen with America's conflicts is because America doesn't like to admit that we commit war crimes, but we totally commit war crimes all the fucking time. We don't need to investigate that. America did that one. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. Uncle Sam did that one. Right? So we never get this detailed listing, right? It's always like Democracy Now, you know, and some independent people, you know, walked around and knocked on some doors in Iraq and, you know, asked as many people as they could, you know, hey, you know, did you know someone who died in the war and were they, you know, did you know them and all that, and totally inaccurate estimates of war crimes committed by the United States, right? No support from Western allies who you know, we don't need to know the truth on that one. Yeah. The less we know about America's atrocities, the better. That makes supporting them and getting a better economy really easy, as long as we just ignore the war crimes of the United States. So we never get this kind of detailed, right, accounting for just how much damage one country is doing to another. So I find that fascinating. Let's dig into it here.
Ukrainians are not the only ones suffering from Russia's invasion. According to the United Nations, 1.6 billion people in 94 countries have been directly affected by the war, whether that be food, energy, or financial crises. Today's prospective guest is a woman whose job it is to raise awareness about the global impact of the war and rally support for Ukraine. And her job is not an easy one, given the prevalence of Russian disinformation. Oleksandra Drik is the International Advocacy Officer at Ukraine's Center for Civil Liberties, one of the joint recipients of this year's Nobel Peace Prize. She joins us by video from Berlin. Oleksandra Drik, good morning. Thank you so much for...
Pale boat over here complaining. Listen to this comment, YouTube. Listen to this comment. Pale boat over here. My point isn't that America is better. It's that countries should fend for themselves. If you need a separate government to fight your war crime, you won, but cheated. Pale boat. All that's fair in love and war. And the victors write history, bitch! The victors write history. That's just how it is.
For taking the time to speak with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And you've just returned from a trip to Kenya where you went to raise awareness about the war and rally support. Why go to Kenya in particular, and what was your message for the people there?
Well, we visited two countries. There was Kenya and there was Ethiopia. Kenya has been very supportive to all UN resolutions regarding Russian invasion of Ukraine, and Kenya has been considered as one of the strategic partners of Ukraine in East Africa. And we were on a mission to meet local officials, local civil society, local journalists to counter Russian narratives, but also to help build the links as between the civil societies, such as with the governmental institutions. In particular, I was able to meet the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Gladys Boss, and she actually offered to establish a group of friends within the Kenyan National Assembly, which and this I facilitated. I was glad to facilitate this connection with the Ukrainian parliament. Hopefully, it will help us to work together jointly on countering these Russian narratives and stopping Russian aggression in Ukraine.
And speaking of those Russian narratives, did you encounter many when you were in Kenya and Ethiopia?
I did. In fact, the most popular ones would be considering this Russian war in Ukraine as a proxy war between West and Russia.
On 97.5, The Politic. Pale boat, that's probably one of the best insults I've heard against me, man. Kudos to you, man. This is DJ Abandoned Nihilism on 97.5 The Politic. Coming at you with all those awesome pranks and fake phone calls.
Which basically puts people in position of abstaining from, taking part in or taking a side in this particular war. While the message that we were trying to send that this is a gross violation of international law. This is a violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of an independent country, which goes against the UN Charter. And this is exactly why we want Russian troops out of the territory of Ukraine. And this is Ukrainians that are fighting now with Russian army in Ukraine, not NATO troops. So explaining this, I think, does make a lot of people think about the nature of this war. And we say that basically Russia is now terrorizing civilian population in Ukraine because it has been losing on the battlefield. Recently, Ukrainian army has been advancing on deoccupying and regaining the control over some occupied territories, and not being able again to win on a battlefield. Russia has been basically terrorizing civilian population by in particular targeting energy infrastructure, leaving now entire Ukraine in blackouts, lack of electricity, lack of energy, lack of heating, problems with the network and mobile connection, and so on. So understanding this, I believe, would help us to build the support to Ukraine and the cause that we are fighting, which is freedom and sovereignty across the globe.
And the Center for Civil Liberties has been investigating Russian rights abuses and potential war crimes since the conflict first broke out back in 2014. Can you paint a picture for us of some of what you've documented?
Certainly. We have been documenting war crimes committed by Russian army in Ukraine ever since the first invasion 2014. With the full-scale invasion, we have co-established a large coalition of organizations, which now has 24 members and covers the entire territory of Ukraine, which has been documenting crimes committed by the Russian army in Ukraine. In 9 months, we have been able to document over 27,000 of crimes. These are war crimes, crimes against humanity under the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Obviously, we cooperate with national authorities as well as international authorities like ICC, Eurojust and Genocide Network, UN, OACE, Moscow Mechanism in particular, European Court of Human Rights. So basically, we use all the tools and instruments available to make sure that there is accountability for all these crimes that have been committed in Ukraine. And we are very grateful for all the support that we have been receiving so far from countries in Europe in particular, in coordinating and making sure these joint efforts on bringing accountability deliver eventually. However, what we see at the moment is that basically there's no institution in the world that can address, prosecute, and adjudicate the crime of aggression. The crime that has been committed by Russia against Ukraine currently cannot be investigated by International Criminal Court, and there is no institution in the world that can do that. And that's exactly why we have been also supporting the idea of the establishment of the special tribunal that would focus specifically on the crime of aggression.
And the EU did announce this week that it's going to work to set up a special UN-backed court to investigate possible Russian war crimes. But bringing Russian officials to court and enforcing any consequences is going to be very difficult. What would justice look like to you?
Well, first of all, we want justice to all victims of the crimes committed by Russia against and in Ukraine. And in this case, as I said, we are documenting dozens of thousands of crimes. So you can imagine the number of victims. And we understand that it will take a long time, but justice should be delivered. However, if we are talking, there are four main types of grave international crimes, and these are war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and crime of aggression. In this case, we focus on.
To be fair and balanced, TM, one must mention that if this person were to ask if Ukraine would start criticizing the West for not treating Palestine and Venezuela and Syria and all the other things with the same amount of consideration that they're treating Ukraine, right, when it comes to concern over war crimes, would Ukraine would be willing to, stand up for Palestine and call the United States out, for example? And highly likely that she would have to dodge that question. It's really quite a shame, really, when you think about it, that, regardless of what you think and how you feel, like you would have to take such a terrible position where you would have to dodge a question about, should these people suffer? No, of course not. They shouldn't suffer. But if you say that, you're basically calling, the United States hypocrites, right? So you can't say that, especially if you're representative of Ukraine, right? So we have a long way to go, is what I'm trying to point out, is that this is great. This can be a great opportunity of the United States to purge itself of its hypocrisy, to call itself out in a way, and to actually, redeem itself on some of these major issues by actually, following its own example when it comes to Ukraine, and really trying to help where help is needed and actually being effective with that help. But they're likely not going to take that lesson. It likely won't be, like I said, the lesson that will be learned is that, military interventionism works,
On two of them, while ICC can investigate 3 of them. So I would say that starting with the crime of aggression and the special tribunal on the crime of aggression, which is slightly different from other crimes in terms of collecting evidence, in terms of how it deals with victims and so on. This would be a very important first step to make sure that this crime that has been so obvious to everybody in the world, because you can actually follow this war on 24/7 media, that this crime gets punished while we're working on making sure the accountability and justice is delivered on all other crimes, on all different levels. And one important thing that is, I believe, is important to understand about the difference of these crimes is that the crime of aggression is basically between the states, meaning that it will target primarily the tribunal, when it is going to be established, will target primarily Russian political and military leadership.
Alexandra, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but I'm afraid that we've run out of time. But thank you.
Run out of time on this segment. Great segment, though. Loved it. Excellent job. Please keep up the good work. Alexander Dirk.
So much for joining us today.
What's her name?
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but I'm afraid.
Political and military leadership.
Alexandra Dirk, doing great work over there. I wanted to address something being said in the comments section by Pale Boat once again. Pale Boat, I don't know who lied to you when you became an adult. You know, once you stripped yourself of your innocence and decided that you were an adult. I don't know who lied to you about fairness, okay? But let me just set you straight here, buddy. Fairness doesn't exist. Everything is unfair, and begging and pleading and demanding fairness, it's just so unfair. It's just so unfair. It, to me, is a sign of weakness, okay? Because if you're not assuming that the world you live in and the systems that you work in are unfair, then you're incredibly naive. You're outrageously naive. All right? So do yourself a favor and stop assuming things are going to be fair. Oh, that war wasn't fair because they accepted help from the United States. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Okay? And it stems from this false idea of fairness. Okay? The universe isn't fair. Geopolitics isn't fair. Love and war isn't fair. Okay? So stop walking around and assuming things are fair, and they should be. Right? Sure. Equality and equity needs to happen. But, what's good for one person is often bad for another. So it's often a compromise and balance. None of it's fair. Everyone's definition of fair is different. I'm just sick and tired of people. Oh, it's unfair. It's so unfair. Everything's unfair. I'm tired of it. What does that even mean? If you want it to be fair, you need to make it so. There's no cosmic balance. Okay? The entire idea of good versus evil is a fantasy. Everything is gray. Hello, Pack. The topic currently is Ukraine. All right, moving back over here, we got our next segment.
Have an opinion on what's happening.
I'm just sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired of motherfuckers talking about fairness. Fairness. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get to these two later. That's just a single topic. These two clips. In its push towards Bakhmut, the Russian military has reduced the city to ruins. So I just wanted to get another angle of this. I'd say justice instead of fairness. Amen, woke patriots. Thank you. You are a poet. You are a poet. Oh, I'm afraid you already missed the segment on Kosovo, Packy. What I can do though for you there, Packy, let me just see if I can find my Kosovo link. Did I already? Yeah, I got rid of it, didn't I? Hold on, let me check my history. Here we go. If you want to see the story that I covered on Kosovo, it's right here. Packy, please feel free to check it out. Thank you so much for stopping in. Welcome to the News Underground, the actual legit source for news and information on Twitch. Congratulations, you found real news. But no, moving back over to Ukraine here. In its push towards Bakhmut, the Russian military has reduced the city to ruins. This is by DW, the German news station.
Fighting continues. Ukrainian forces have attacked Russian-occupied Melitopol, a strategic important city.
Hugely strategically important. It's a big part of the strategy to separate Russia, to split Russia in two, is to take Melitopol.
In the southeast, at least 2 people have died. Meanwhile, Ukrainian authorities say Russian attacks on the port city of Odessa have left 1.5 million people without power. President Volodymyr Zelensky says strikes by Iranian-made drones hit 2 energy facilities, destroying the power network in the region.
The situation in the Odessa region is very difficult. After a night of strikes by Iranian drones, Odessa and other cities and villages in the region are in the dark. More than 1.5 million people in the Odessa region are without electricity. Only critical infrastructure is connected, and to the extent where it is possible to supply electricity.
And heavy fighting is also ongoing in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. Both sides have reported significant losses. Some of the fiercest battles are near the city of Bakhmut. It sustained widespread damage, and people still living there are facing tough winter conditions.
Speed is of the essence. Ludmila Bila distributes water and food for air raid shelters in Bakhmut.
Boy,
Much
they
of the
hustling.
frontline city in the Donetsk region is in ruins. The few who get stoves for the winter are the lucky ones.
They're getting stoves.
It's unbearable. It's so cold and there aren't any blankets. It's just a few degrees above freezing in the house.
God damn it. Fuck you, Russia.
Sometimes Ludmila and the team manage to create a little joy amid the horror. A week ago, she rescued a boy and brought him to her family. Now, she's been able to bring his mother too.
Hey!
I have a present for you. Let's call out to Mama, really loud.
Oh, that's amazing.
The Russian Defense Ministry has released pictures of young reservists being transferred to the front, equipped with new rifles and winterized uniforms. The clip is meant to push back at widespread reports that reservists are in fact poorly equipped and just used as cannon fodder in Ukraine. Here, the outskirts of Donetsk, on the Russian-occupied side of the front.
Thank you, Krail.
Again, no electricity and water. Rocket fire is constant.
Jesus Christ, look at that.
We just
That was
don't
her
want
house.
anything anymore. Not riches or other pleasures. Just to go to bed and wake up in peace. Not like now. When I wake up, I see all the horror before my eyes.
Another night awaits, full of rocket fire and destruction raining from the sky.
Jesus Christ, that was her house. Okay. And Russia deems this woman's house as a viable military target. You know? How much, think about it. Think about how much did Russia spend? How much money did they spend to blow this woman's house up? You know? Moving on. Looks like Davey has a fan in Boris Johnson over here. Looks like you and Boris agree. I don't know how Davey feels about that, but Boris Johnson says give Ukraine long-range weapons to end the war, and there's a pretty good argument to be made that if Ukraine were to be given weapons that would strike specific military targets within Ukraine, of course, but also a couple military targets within Russia, that it could, end the war quite quickly. If they had enough of them and they were able to hit these strategic targets. Oh, Pale Boat. You know what? It's not the Pale Boat show, I'm afraid. Oh my God. What is this? Oh. Yeah, it's not the Pale Boat Show right now, buddy. We're gonna go ahead and put you in the timeout corner. There you go. You're gonna go ahead and think about everything for the next 10 minutes. And if you never come back, then thank you so fucking much for doing me that favor. Boris Johnson has said Ukraine must be given better weaponry, including long-range missile systems, in order to end the war as quickly as possible. Equipment should include drones, anti-aircraft missiles, planes, armored cars, and tanks, and long-range systems such as ATACMS, he said. Why don't you do it? I mean, well, I guess he's not in charge, huh? Yeah, well, it's easy for him to say then, huh? I say give the Ukrainians some ATA, how do you say that? ACTMs? Just reverse the right to veto certain targets they might choose. Reserve the right. I like that idea. That, you know, if you want to fire it, just confirm the target first. First time in the timeout zone. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for sticking around, Unsatiable. I do appreciate it. Get you laid one of these days. Quote, the world, so this is from Boris Johnson here, the world can't continue to watch as the Ukrainians are terrorized with missiles and drones, he wrote. Another quote, the Ukrainians have the valor necessary to succeed. They have shown it. They just need the equipment. I hate to agree with old Boris over here, but, you know, he's right on that one. He added that Ukraine should not be expected to give up land in exchange for a peace deal, although he suggested that the de facto boundaries prior to the February 24th invasion, when Russia already controlled some parts of Ukrainian territory, could be the starting point for discussions. No, Boris. No, honey. No, it isn't. The Ukrainian government's position is that it aims to reclaim all its territory. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. NATO chief fears Ukraine war could become a wider conflict, so I wanted to include this one as well. You know, we can't sit around and just praise this, you know, every single day without having some critical thought on it. So let's hear what this person has to say from the AP. Hey, welcome back, Common Thinker. Got that popcorn. And any lurkers out there, hey, if you're lurking, you're not chatting, I love you, baby. I love you. Slobby knobs for every one of you lurkers. The head of NATO expressed worry that the fighting in Ukraine could spin out of control and become a war between Russia and NATO, according to an interview released Friday. Quote, if things go wrong, they can go horribly wrong, unquote, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said in remarks to Norwegian broadcaster NRK. Quote, it is a terrible war in Ukraine. It is also a war that can become a full-fledged war that spreads into a major war between NATO and Russia, he said. We are working on that every day to avoid that. I feel like this is a comment being taken out of context. I feel like I feel like I haven't heard the whole statement, but I'd be curious to hear the whole statement, because I feel like what he's trying to say is that that's why we need to help Ukraine as much as possible to avoid a wider war, because that has been the argument coming from a lot of the pro-NATO outlets, which is, you know, we got to help them, we got to prevent them from, you know, taking Ukraine so that they're not emboldened to take Poland or, you know, any other place. I feel like this might be taken out of context a little bit, but Stoltenberg, a former prime minister of Norway, said in the interview that there is no doubt that a full-fledged war is a possibility, adding that it was important to avoid a conflict, quote, that involves more countries in Europe and becomes a full-fledged war in Europe. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the argument that he was making, is that we need to nip this in the bud now before Russia is emboldened to take more. The Kremlin has repeatedly accused NATO allies of effectively becoming a party to the conflict by providing Ukraine with weapons, training its troops, and feeding military intelligence to attack Russian forces. I mean, that's perfectly fair. I don't even understand why they would deny it at this point, but geopolitics doesn't need to make sense. In comments that reflected soaring tensions between Russia and the West, President Vladimir Putin suggested Moscow might think about using what he described as the U.S. concept of a preemptive strike. Oh, totally appropriate to, you know, it is pretty hilarious to see the United States judging any other country on preemptive strikes, right? Quote, speaking about a disarming strike, maybe it's worth thinking about adopting the ideas developed by our U.S. counterparts. Their ideas of ensuring their security, he said. Oh, it's so juvenile. It's so juvenile. Maybe we should do some preemptive strikes just like the U.S., huh? That's not fair. It's not fair that you get to do it and we don't. Maybe we'll just do a couple preemptive strikes. Maybe we'll just invade Fallujah. What do you think about that? Long before the Ukraine war, the Kremlin expressed concern about U.S. efforts to develop the so-called prompt global strike capability that envisions hitting an adversary's strategic targets with precision-guided conventional weapons anywhere within the world within 1 hour. Putin noted that such a strike could knock out command facilities. We're just thinking about it. We're just thinking about it. We're just thinking about it. They weren't shy to openly talk about it during the past years, he said, claiming that Moscow's precision-guided cruise missiles outperform similar U.S. weapons, and Russia has hypersonic weapons that the U.S. hasn't deployed. Ho, 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 ho. Putin also said he was disappointed with former German Chancellor Angela Merkel's recent comments. Oh, Angela's devastated. That a 2015 peace deal for eastern Ukraine negotiated by France and Germany had bought time for Ukraine to prepare for the 2022 war. Quote, I assume that other participants of the process were sincere with us, but it turned out that they were cheating us, he said. It turned out that they wanted to pump Ukraine with weapons and prepare for hostilities. That you guys became hostile and they were right. It's unbelievable. This is a statement coming from the aggressors. I can't believe you didn't take us seriously and then prepared for the invasion that we promptly did. I can't believe you got prepared for the invasion when we were lying to you. We were lying to you truthfully. We were being very truthful when we were lying to you about not wanting to invade Ukraine. Then when you got ready for the invasion, we got mad. We got mad that you thought we were going to invade, so we invaded anyway. It's literally like a 14-year-old girl, man. Like, what the fuck? I wanted to go to the party, and Becky went to the party, and it's unfair. I can't believe I can't go to the party. It's unbelievable. All I did was crash the car, Dad. That's a bad comparison. Putin argued that Merkel's statement showed that Russia was right in launching what he calls the special military. That's exactly the excuse. Yep. I can't believe you got ready for our invasion, so we had to invade in Ukraine. Perhaps we should have started it earlier, he said. I should have did it earlier. Wow, man, it's crazy. He also said her comments further eroded Russia's trust in the West. Oh, we're devastated, complicating any possible peace talks. Oh, we're just so devastated. Eventually, we will negotiate an agreement, he said. But after such statements, there is an issue of trust. Trust is close to zero. I previously have said that we are ready for an agreement, but it makes us think about whom we're dealing with. As they literally kidnap children and drop bombs on schools and fucking villages. I don't know if I trust you in this agreement. I'm mad now. Get Heimard, bitch. Fuck you. How about two, motherfucker? How about two, bitch? How about two, bitch? Fuck off. Fuck off, man. I ain't taking this clown seriously. Fuck you, Putin. Ukraine launches missile attack on Russian-occupied Melitopol. Explosions reported in Donetsk and Crimea. It's fucking happening, boys. It's happening. It's happening. Hope you're dug in. Gives them drone pilots a nice target to drop a grenade on. Those little foxholes that they dig, man. They might as well just dig them 6 feet deep, boys. Dig them 6 feet deep and have those sunflowers in the pocket, man. Because I've seen, I don't know how many, Davey, how many videos have you seen of Ukrainian drone operators just dropping a grenade right into those little foxholes that they built? I've probably seen a dozen. Right? Fucking Putin. Where's the video? Come on, I thought this was a queued up video. Okay, good.
We start this morning.
I ain't got time to read. Reading's for fools. Reading's for suckers.
With some really incredible new video out of southern Ukraine. It shows the aftermath of a purported Ukrainian attack on the Russian-occupied city of Melitopol. This is one of several explosions overnight felt in southern Ukraine and on the Crimean Peninsula. Russian state media is also reporting missile strikes in eastern Ukraine and the self-proclaimed Donetsk.
Hold on here. Yeah, Ram Jam and Woke Patriot, who's trying to call what Ram Jam is saying nuance. It's not nuance. It's incorrect. It's not nuance. It's incorrect. Okay. The invasion is okay. Here's the facts of the ground. NATO completely ignored Russia, and put bases everywhere it could. NATO was absolutely interested in getting Ukraine on board. Okay. And Russia went and invaded Ukraine and completely justified every superstition that NATO ever had, proving NATO 100% correct in its preparations for what it saw as Russia's ambitions, territorial ambitions. Okay? While I agree that NATO is in the wrong, we're playing a stupid game now of who's more wrong, who's more incorrect. NATO for militarily encircling Russia, or Russia for fulfilling the dreams of NATO and invading Ukraine. Right? Russia's invasion of Ukraine does not absolve NATO from its obvious aggression. Right? And I'm constantly trying to point out that the United States is aggressive. It is an empire. That doesn't make the crime that Russia is committing any less severe. Right? And unfortunately, it's NATO was 100% right retroactively. Right? And I refuse to accept the argument. You know, it's like that stupid argument that right wingers like to use sometimes, right? Like, oh, I wouldn't support anti-Semitism and racism if you guys weren't just canceling me and being all woke and stuff. If you guys weren't woke and canceling me, then I wouldn't be a right wing fascist. It's totally ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. If Russia, and here's the thing, and here's. Oh, you don't like to be timed out, buddy? Oh, no. Oh, no. How about another 10 minutes? How about another 10 minutes? See you in 10, big boy. God damn it. And then I lost my train of thought. Fuck. Okay, no, I'm back on it. I'm back on it. Listen, it was a terrible idea to invade because Russia was actually starting to become Russia's argument against NATO was starting to really pick up steam. Germany was on board. There were a lot of European countries on board that were like, yeah, we need to be questioning NATO. We need to be pushing back against NATO. You know, this idea that Russia's going to invade another country and that Russia isn't a rational actor is totally ridiculous. Russia hasn't invaded anybody. Let's treat them like normal. Let's treat them like partners on the global stage. Let's start pushing back against NATO. There was a really strong argument against NATO pre-invasion, and Putin, because he's about to die, because he's got several diseases, and he's not going to be on this earth forever. He is accelerating this fantasy that he has about rebuilding the Russian Empire, and he's going for it. And he invaded another country, right? Old school military, boots on the ground, rolled in, it's ours now style. We can't let that abide. We can't let that abide, right? How many regions in Afghanistan did the United States annex? Okay, Ram Jam. How many regions did the United States annex in Afghanistan? The answer to that question is 0. To me, that tells me that these are different conflicts. It's 0, Ram Jam. It's 0. These are different conflicts. This is not just the United States you know, using this opportunity to fight a proxy war with Ukraine. That is happening. That is one of the things that is happening. But one of the other things that is happening is a legitimate democracy is getting the tools it needs to finally unmoor itself from what is obviously a authoritarian, system of governance. That is this, this Russian coalition, right? That's what's happening here. That doesn't absolve the United States. That doesn't absolve NATO from its obvious aggression. But look, if we're quantifying the crime here, invading another country and doing bukas. I mean, every town they liberate, they're finding mass graves, they're committing a buka everywhere they go. If we're quantifying what is more incorrect, NATO being obviously aggressive or Russia, destroying millions of lives, right? The answer to me is obvious. Okay, and if it isn't obvious to you, then I want you to check yourself, man. Let's get back to it.
People's Republic.
Now, the attacks come hours after a barrage of Russian drone strikes across Ukraine. And President Volodymyr Zelensky says 5 Iranian-made drones hit key power facilities around Odessa Saturday, knocking out power to more than 1.5 million people. CNN's Sam Kiley is live for us now from Kyiv. Sam, give us an update on what all these new developments mean.
Well, first of all, the Odessa strikes. I think the significance there is that these were made, according to the Ukrainian government, by the Iranian-supplied Shahed drones. These are Iranian missiles that are pretty primitive, cheap to make, but there had been an assumption from the Ukrainians that they were running low on or had run out of entirely these Iranian-made drones. Now, they fired some 15, 5 got through. They've crippled temporarily the power supply to Odessa, a city of over 1 million people that has largely been spared a lot of these attacks on the energy infrastructure here in Ukraine. Elsewhere in the country, the power system is coming back to life. It's down to about 75% of capacity. It'll take a long time to fix it in its entirety. But it is a sign, though, unfortunately, from the Ukrainian perspective, that the suggestion that the Russians were running out of these missiles is no longer the case. Amra Boris?
And Sam, we've also seen very intense fighting recently in the town of Bakhmut. What's the strategic significance of those clashes?
As far as the Ukrainians are concerned, they're baffled as to why the Russians are throwing so much into the fight for Bakhmut. It doesn't, from the Ukrainian perspective, represent particularly important strategic asset as a target for the Ukrainians. But if you look at what else is going on elsewhere in the country with the potential, I don't think it's yet a counteroffensive in places like Melitopol on the southern front, it does absorb a lot of Ukrainian military energy. The casualties on both sides are very high around Bakhmut, and arguably that is an attempt by the Russians to make sure that the Ukrainians can't open up a counteroffensive elsewhere, particularly in the south, which is a very long front line, and of course it is the route to the prize, really, one of the main prizes for Ukraine, which would be ultimately to recapture the Crimean Peninsula, which has been illegally annexed by Russia. Of course, we've also seen attacks in the east of the country with these longer range missile strikes, potentially signaling that the Ukrainians may have developed some technology that they're not yet acknowledging, but technology that is getting through Russian air defenses in the Crimean Peninsula, in the east of the country, and lately in Melitopol. Boris?
There you go. And I have lots more news pertaining to look at this asshole drinking his fucking, look at him drinking his fucking champagne, celebrating a bombing campaign where 40% of the bombs landed on civilian targets. Or no, it was 60% of the bombs landed on civilian and electrical specific targets. And fuck you. Fuck you. No, someone mentioned The Running Man, so I do my Smash TV. More money, more prizes. Ukrainian HIMARS destroyed barracks in Russian-occupied Melitopol, according to reports.
з дуже важкою на ключових напрямках на Донбасі, Бахмут, Соледар, Мар'їнка, Кремінна. На землі цих районів вже давно не залишилось живого місця.
Yeah, no, homie. I'm not going to let you walk away with that bullshit meek-ass attitude. There is no fucking middle ground here. Russia is unjustified in its invasion, and the military encirclement of Russia is not a justification for Russia to invade Ukraine and demand its entire country, which is exactly what it did when it attempted to take Kyiv in 72 hours. So you're not gonna both sides this shit, okay? Get that weak sauce bullshit on out of here.
Неушкодженого снарядами і вогнем. Окупанти фактично зруйнували Бахмут, ще одне місто Донбасу, яке російська армія перетворила на випалені руїни. Я дякую всім нашим героям, усім солдатам, командирам, які тримають фронт на цих напрямках, відбивають атаки і завдають ворогу відчутних втрат у відповідь.
Homie, you just tried to both sides it and squeak the fuck out of here, Ram Jam. Just knock it off, man.
На те пекло, яке зайшло в Україну під російським прапором.
Okay? How many, you know, I'm not going to get into a comparison of massacres by the United States and Russia. That's not a good idea. You do have a dog in the fight. If you believe and love democracy and liberty, you got a dog in this fight. This is a fight. This is a fight for an ideal, man. Russia doesn't have an inherent right to control anything. And I believe that for the United States as well. Look, Texas wants to secede. If they vote, they should do it. Go ahead. Do it. Right? Brexit, they wanted to go. They voted on it. That was the decision. I believe in a referendum, though. I think a referendum would have been a good idea for Brexit. That's also democracy. But, yeah. So, I mean, I believe in democracy. And this is a fight for democracy. This is a fight for liberty in general. HIMARS target multiple explosions in Crimea as Ukraine steps up attack on Russian-occupied areas. Everybody, get out your glow sticks. It's time for the politics Trapaholics politics mix coming at you from DJ Crux, funded by the Indian government, I believe. Take it away, DJ Crux over here. DJ Crux in the house, Trapaholics mixtape. Yo, this Crux, this DJ Crux. Yo, it's crazy how multiple, dog. Coming at you like a yeah, dog. Trapaholics mixtape, tape. Yo, there's multiple explosions, dog. Yo, there's dead bodies everywhere, dog. Ram Jam, I'll throw you a bone. I think I see what you're trying to get at, bud. Okay, I'll throw you a bone. I think I see what you're trying to get at. You clearly have stated that Russia is not justified in invading Ukraine, and that's the only litmus test I got. So I see what you're saying, man. Okay? Well, Ram Jam, you're saying I'm not dick riding for Ukraine or Russia. I'm not wearing a Ukrainian flag or a Russian flag. What we're saying is, yeah, that's fine, and we agree with you. We actually disagree that, you know, well, we actually, you know, I'm constantly talking about the dangers of nationalism and how toxic nationalism can be. What we're saying is, yeah, none of that actually matters, because what we're standing up for, is basically a country's right to defend itself, to choose its own way forward, right? And there's no both sides to that. And I think you would agree with that. That, you know, if another country is invading your country, you have a right to defend yourself, right? And if another country wants to help that country, the people who are defending themselves, you know, of course they're not going to say no to that help, Right? So I see what you're saying. Let's just move on, huh? Let's move on. Hey, I got an idea. Smoke some weed. Because this is DJ Crux, Trapaholics Mixtape. Actually, I don't like this fucking beat. I don't like this fucking beat. You know what? Let's get a better beat. Let's upgrade the fucking beat here. Here we go. I want a better, yeah. Pounds of concrete, yeah. Well, come on.
Kosovo Serbs are
This
out
is
in the
not Pounds
streets
of
again,
Concrete.
and the
This
fears
is-
of renewed violence loom.
This is what is happening. There we go. There we go. No, there we go. Much better. Pimp them sluts. I agree, Ram Jam. I agree, man. The paradox of Ukraine is that the sooner we end the war, the less people will die. We need to end the war quickly so less people can die. Heard in the city center. Uh-oh. Is this in Crimea? Garbage Fuel, the #1 drink mix company in the world. Garbage Fuel. Drink Garbage Fuel today. Garbage Fuel sourced from 100% garbage juice. Drink your Garbage Fuel. Fuck this guy. Fuck his comments. Drink Garbage Fuel. Dmitry Peskov, professional liar for the Russian military. Drink your Garbage Fuel, Dmitry. Yeah, this has been Crux, Trapaholics Mixtape. Yo, this has been Crux. See, you didn't want to hear that whole that beat over and over again. You want to hear this shit. All right. This is my song of the year. I've literally played this probably 300 times. And I will keep playing it. All right, so that was Crux. Moving on to Ukraine launches missile attacks on key city. This is by CNN. Thought we'd get CNN's opinion. And yeah, wow, look at this guy. Do you think he has a little history in the military? Gee, I don't know. I can't tell if this guy has any kind of military background. Can you guys? Something about him. I can't quite place it.
We start this morning with some really incredible new video. Out of southern Ukraine. It shows the aftermath of a purported Ukrainian attack on the Russian-occupied city of Melitopol. This is one of several explosions overnight felt in southern Ukraine and on the Crimean Peninsula. Russian state media is also reporting missile strikes in eastern Ukraine and the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic.
Now, the attacks come hours after a barrage of Russian drone strikes across Ukraine. And President Volodymyr Zelensky says 5 Iranian-made drones hit key power facilities around Odessa Saturday, knocking out power to more than 1.5 million people. CNN's Sam Kiley is live for us now from Kyiv. Sam, give us an update on what all these new developments mean.
Well, first of all, the Odessa strikes. I think the significance there is that these were made, according to the Ukrainian government, by the Iranian-supplied Shahed drones. These are Iranian missiles that are pretty primitive, cheap to make, but there had been an assumption from the Ukrainians that they were running low on or had run out of entirely these Iranian-made drones. Now, they fired some 15, 5 got through. They've crippled temporarily the power supply to Odessa, a city of over 1 million people that has largely been spared a lot of these attacks on the energy infrastructure here in Ukraine. Elsewhere in the country, the power system is coming back to life. It's down to about 75% of capacity. It'll take a long time to fix it in its entirety. But it is a sign, though, unfortunately, from the Ukrainian perspective, that the suggestion that the Russians were running out of these missiles is no longer the case. Samra Boris?
And Sam, we've also seen very intense fighting recently in the town of Bakhmut. What's the strategic significance of those clashes?
As far as the Ukrainians are concerned, they're baffled as to why the Russians are throwing so much into the fight for Bakhmut. It doesn't, from the Ukrainian perspective, represent...
Not supporting U.S. aid to Ukraine is inherently supporting Russia's invasion and victory over Ukraine. That's just how it works, man. Okay? You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. Oh, I love peace. I love peace. I love peace. So we should let the Russian military ravage Ukraine in a long, extended, drawn-out conflict. You're not pro-peace if you're calling to stop the aid to Ukraine. Straight up. You're pro-Russian invasion. The facts on the ground is the sooner Ukraine can push Russia out of its country, the sooner we can start the process of Russia licking its wounds and getting Ukraine rebuilt.
Particularly important strategic asset as a target for the Ukrainians. But if you look at what else is going on elsewhere in the country with the potential, I don't think it's yet a counteroffensive in places like Melitopol on the southern front. It does absorb a lot of Ukrainian military energy. The casualties on both sides are very high around Bakhmut, and arguably that is an attempt by the Russians to make sure that the Ukrainians can't open up a counteroffensive elsewhere, particularly in the south, which is a very long front line, and of course it is the route to the prize, really, well, one of the main prizes for Ukraine, which would be ultimately to recapture the Crimean Peninsula, which has been illegally annexed by Russia. Of course, we've also seen attacks in the east of the country with these longer-range missile strikes, potentially signaling that the Ukrainians may have developed some technology that they're not yet acknowledging, but technology that is getting through Russian air defenses in the Crimean Peninsula, in the east of the country, and lately in Melitopol. Boris?
So there you go. And so Davey said, we've seen enough Russian media clips to know their goal is to eliminate Ukrainian existence, that they want the Ukrainian identity to be wiped off the face of the earth. And I responded with, the media does not represent what the government is actually going to do. So, I mean, we've seen a lot of this hyperbolic. I'm talking ultra hyperbolic. I'm talking over 9,000 hyperbolic comments coming from the Russian media. And yes, I do have one Russian media, Russian news, translated Russian news clip coming up. You can look forward to that. They've said we're going to nuke them. They said we're going to do this. I mean, they said everything. They literally said everything. And there's a clear difference between what that insane media is saying and what the Russian government actually does. I understand, and Davey's pointing out that the media that we're talking about is funded by the Russian government. I understand that, but the absurdity is important, right? The absurdity is important to set that bar really high and to just keep topping it, to keep going, right? The absurdity is part of the bamboozling, right? So that's okay that they're it's not, you know, it's not like what we can't take the shit that's coming out of these Russian pundits' mouths seriously as like actual threats from Russia. We can't go down that route, right? I mean, because look at U.S. media, right? Look at what Tucker Carlson and all the other, you know, freakazoids. I still can't remember his name. Ben Shapiro. He doesn't know his wife's pussy gets wet. Ben Shapiro. Hey, he remembered. Hey, it's okay. Wait, what the fuck? What? Wrong button. What? Okay. Putin also said that Ukraine was a mistake. True. But it's clear that a complete and total invasion of Ukraine is what Russia wanted to accomplish, without a doubt. Is it a guarantee that Russia, so say Russia snaps its finger and gets what it wants right now, even after all these statements, they take Kyiv, they take control of all of Ukraine. Do you, Davey, honestly believe that Russia would then proceed with some kind of Nazi Germany style eradication program of the Ukrainian people? I think that's I don't think that is a possibility. We have seen Ukraine kidnap children, but I don't think if like I said, if Russia were to take Kyiv right now and they'd have control over all of Ukraine, you know, I don't think that they would start an eradication campaign, right? U.S. to send Ukraine anti-drone, anti-defense aid worth $275 million. Totally support it. This is why exactly I paid my taxes once in my goddamn life. I literally moved out of the United States because I disagree so wholeheartedly with the military-industrial complex. And just as I move out, the military-industrial complex does one fucking thing that I agree with. So they wouldn't kill everyone. They wouldn't eliminate people who say they are Ukrainian and not Russian. People who gladly call themselves Russian would be fine with. Yeah. They would just, you know, well, like it or not, doesn't matter, you know. They would probably be treated like second-class citizens and all that. Eradication, no. Russification, yes, they would. Yeah, and because, I mean, we saw them, like, that's their number one priority. They won't even have full, I bet you, they've taken the time to change some of the signs in Bakhmut, right? In the areas of Bakhmut that they now control, the outskirts areas. It's like their number one concern. Ooh, let's get the propaganda on there. Let's get the school books. Let's replace the school books immediately. Okay. Let's get teachers from Russia and Crimea in here. Let's go. It's their number one concern. Right. So this is good news. I won't delve into it. It is what it is. More money going to where it should be. And, you know, I want this to end immediately. And yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? $275 million. I don't mean to be pithy about it. It's a lot of fucking money. But to the U.S. government and especially to the U.S. military budget, it's whoop. What? $275 million? What do you mean? We'll spend $275 million on researching, you know, anti-gravity, you know, I mean, well, you know, anti-gravity theory from some crackpot TikTok scientist, you know what I mean? Well, the government will spend an unbelievable amount of money on the most ridiculous of things, so don't get it twisted. I wanted to throw out some criticism of Ukraine. We're criticizing Ukraine now. I'm pro-Russian, guys. I'd like to announce I'm super pro-Kremlin now. super pro-Kremlin, by the way, if anyone wants to know. Putin for life. Russia for life. Hammer and sickle. I'm changing my Twitter profile. Hammer and sickles. Justifying every war crime. It's happening, guys. It's happening. Transformation's complete. No. I wanted to criticize Ukraine here. This is dumb. Ukraine has been on point when it comes to PR, managing image, social media, on point, right? Few fumbles here and there, but mainly on point. The joke that they made, that the official social media account made when the Crimean bridge burned, little tasteless, right? But for the most part, pretty on point. This is a dumb idea. This is a bad idea. This should not be the concern right now of the Ukrainian government, and any representatives of the Ukrainian government should not be concerning themselves with this. Yes, the writer of the song is Russian, and there's that segment with, you know, the Russian guys coming out, and there's the bear and the circus scene, but this is stupid. No one, and way too late. So Ukraine's culture minister is calling on the nation's Western allies to temporarily boycott Russian artists and composers. In a Wednesday opinion column in The Guardian, yada yada, tool as a weapon, yada. We all know the fucking thing. Yada yada yada. Cultural venues. Yeah, so the minister's piece represents the first time a Ukrainian officials has called for a cultural boycott, though plenty of institutions have taken steps along this path since the war started. But pausing performances by Petri Tchaikovsky, the composer behind the quintessential Christmas classic The Nutcracker, is a big ask, and a late ask, for a country like the U.S., where the Christmas season, or at least Christmas shopping season, kicks off before the Advent calendar does. The Nutcracker's secure place as a season tradition has made it into the crown jewel of every self-respecting troop's repertoire, as well as its main moneymaker. Woke Patriot says, reminds me of freedom fries and those idiots dumping vodka in the streets, or stores not stocking vodka when Russia first invaded. I understand the vodka thing, because, like, I understand, you know, boycotts can be effective, right? It is a little silly to dump the vodka you've already purchased in the drain, right? But I'm also okay with symbolic gestures. But I mainly agree with what you're saying. Did you just make... I'm basically shadow banned, Paleboat, but what do you care? What, do you want to downvote my entire YouTube channel further into oblivion? I have like 101 subscribers. Leave me alone, Paleboat. Please don't abuse me. Oh, I know you're so butthurt that I timed you out, but please just leave me alone, okay? Your terrorism, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. No, I just want to watch. Oh, yeah, fucking right. What about blocking Russian athletes from competing in international sporting events? I think, you know, normally I'd be like, yeah, who fucking cares? But the fact is that countries will use the Olympics and other sporting events as opportunities to boast about their nation and to use it as a nationalist propaganda tool. Like, every country is guilty of that, right? So I kind of understand why certain times athletes are banned because of the country of origin, right? I think it's really cool, though, that the Olympics tells the Olympians, you're still allowed to compete, you're just not allowed to represent your country. Right, you're just compete as like a Russian independent entity, right? But you don't get to parade around with your flag and make a big deal of your country and enjoy in the celebration of your country while you're actively committing war crimes. Let's be real though. Did that shit happen to the United States? Didn't really, did it? No, everyone was cool with our atrocities. What makes the red, white, and blue atrocities so cool? That's what I want to know. Because I would like to see consistency about that, right? Hey, what's up with Palestine, United States? What's up with Palestine? Sorry, we're not going to let the United States. Could you imagine? We're not going to let the United States compete in the Olympics, represent the United States in the Olympics because, of the crimes against Palestine. That'd be amazing. All right, Ram Jam. Have yourself a good night. Thank you. Anyway, I think this is a silly move. I think this is bad PR. I would also like to admit my complete and undying bias. The Nutcracker is one of my favorite performances. When I was in San Francisco, I saw it every single year with my wife. Full three-piece suit. Full three-piece suit. Done up to the nines. Wouldn't miss it. Wouldn't miss it. And the only reason why I'm missing it this year is because I got the kid on the way. Wife doesn't want to be traveling. It's totally understandable. But if she wasn't pregnant, we'd probably be making a special trip to San Francisco just to see the Nutcracker. That's how much I love it. With all that said, I just wanted to make that bias clear. I do think this is a dumb PR move and that they should be focusing on other more effective things than trying to cancel the Nutcracker Ballet. This is just a bad look. This is just dumb PR. So drop this quick. Drop this quick. Bad move. Okay? Learn from your mistakes. Move on from this one, Ukraine. Americans ain't going to be hearing it. Russia drones smash power network in Odessa. Well, we've heard this, and I've reached my article limit, but we've already heard this from several of the other stories. But Russian drones, Iranian drones, are smashing power networks in Odessa. As we heard before, there was some speculation that, hey, are these drones even going to work because of sub temperatures, below zero temperatures? And no, that's not the case. It's a rather warm winter, so they're not freezing up there. Y'all need to start making your Alfredo at home. That shit is yo, Alfredo is delish. I do love me some Alfredo. Oh man, is this another music video crux thing? Okay, no, we did one. I'm good. We did one. I don't know why I had two queued up. Hey, thank you, Pale Bode. I really appreciate it, bud. Ukrainian police records 4,700 war crimes committed by Russian occupiers since 24th of February. So I showed the video about, the woman that's covering this, but, this is just some hard numbers here. Since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the police have recorded some 47,000 war crimes committed by the occupiers. The source is from Ihor Kolyemenko, the head of the National Police, during a meeting with the personnel of the Department of Human Rights, says the report on the National Police website. Details. Kolyemenko reports that among the recorded crimes are cases of torture, sexual assault, and murders of the civilian population. He emphasized that all the law enforcement agencies of Ukraine are collecting evidence of the committed war crimes in order to hold the Russian servicemen accountable. I mean, is this fair? Is this fair to say that, of course, they're not recording their own war crimes? Is that a fair criticism? Is that fair to expect that of literally any country? To record and be transparent about their own war crimes? Is that fair? Because that's what I was saying. It is fair. That's what I was about to say. It's like, of course they're not going to be recording, taking the kind of time and detail to record their own whoopsie doodles on the battlefield. Is that fair though? Honestly, I feel like I would never trust those numbers. I would never trust that information, right? Even if it was like the army was like the Amish, it was like an Amish army, and they, they'd go to hell if they were to lie, and they really mean it. You know what I mean? It's like, even then, I'd still be skeptical about these numbers and about these, like, oh yeah, we committed 30 war crimes. Here's only 30. That's it. They committed 1,000, 50,000. They committed 47,000 war crimes. We committed 10. I thought it was 30. No, it's actually 10. Yeah. Oh, it's actually 7. That number just keeps going down. I don't know why. Right? Like, I just wouldn't believe those numbers. So I think the only way to do this properly is to have a internationally funded, independent atrocity counting agency. Right? I think there are a couple, but they're probably not well funded. They're probably not funded to the degree they need to be. Did that woman on Solio's show talk about Russian political figures? We really worried about future war crime charges? Solilov said they ought to be even more worried about losing the war. Yeah, I think we actually showed that one. Yeah, when it came out a couple weeks ago. Actually, I guess maybe more than a month ago now when that comment came out. I don't think they're honestly worried about it. I think it almost seemed like it was more like tongue in cheek, like joking. Like, oh, they're gonna arrest me for war crimes. Oh no, watch out. You know what I mean? I think it was more of like in jest. I could be wrong though. So anyway, moving on. Footage shows aftermath of strike on barracks in Russian-occupied city of Melitopol. So yeah, this is important, and I really hope we get a Dennis or a Russian dude video to go over the map. I'm so, you know, I can barely even fucking pronounce these, you know, these places. It's embarrassing me trying to cover the map stuff. So I really like to get a guy, you know, from that area to cover it. So hopefully we'll get some footage of that. But this is a critical city to be going for, and Davies' prediction seems to be 100% correct. Why bother putting your soldiers, putting your army through the slog of crossing the Dnipro River when you can just hold that position, hold Kharkiv, right, and move your position and move your troops up into a much more advantageous point, laser beam cut the entire conflict in half, you know, take Melitopol first, and then from there, you know, the liberation, you know, really gets started in earnest. I think he's 100% correct on that one. Seems to be the case. Kherson. Oh, I said Kharkiv. I'm sorry. Thank you, Kherson. Yes, thank you, Davey. Thank you for that correction. I meant Kherson. On top of it. That's why he's the producer, folks. Like Dr. Dre. Just fucking Christ. What is left? Wow, why do we have this footage, by the way? Why are they showing us this? I guess, you know, they could use it as propaganda, but it really just shows the effectiveness of U.S. weapons. Speaking of effective weapons, I do have footage of the Russians using thermobaric bombs, and there is quite a you get quite a good look at the incredibly deadly pressure wave that comes out from those thermobaric bombs. Found one for you. Ukrainian who lives in Canada goes over the map and location. Okay. If the Russian dude in Dennis isn't available, then I will gladly play that one. Let me just take a look at the thumbnail. So here we go with, as promised, we get some of that Russian media here translated. This one's there's a few new ones out that are, you know, kind of whatever. It's more like, you know, just more juicy than they are informative. But I thought this one was kind of informative. Head of RT lies that Russia conquered Kyiv during the first week of the war, but gave it back. So just, you know, more ridiculous nonsense. There's nothing from Denny at the moment. All right, we'll get there. He's working on it. He's been taking, he's been doing every other day, which is probably more healthy for him than every day. Got to get that Atlas VPN subscription.
Такие, как они. А если мы такие, как они, то за что мы тогда воюем? Мы воюем, потому что мы не такие. И за наше право быть не такими. Не фашистами, не истериками, не просто дебилами, которые они являются. Если наш сосед придурок, мы теперь тоже должны быть придурками?
Не знаю. От нас ровно этого и ждут. Что мы сильнее, мы умнее, мы благороднее, мы еще какие-то там, мы просто замечательные, и поэтому мы должны сделать первый шаг. Но этот первый шаг там воспринимают исключительно только как нашу слабость.
Наплевать, как воспринимают там. Мы это делаем не для них, а для себя.
Но хорошо.
Мне вообще плевать на них. Они исключают два
Jesus,
сценария.
lady.
Третью мировую
Так.
И победу России, то есть проигрыш Украины.
Да.
В их представлении победа России – это если Россия останется хоть что-то, включая Крым.
Да.
Да. То есть они считают, что Украина должна забрать все. Донбасс,
That's right,
Херсон,
yeah.
Запорожье и Крым тоже. И вот это их устраивает.
Yeah, it's not yours.
А другое не устраивает. И Третья мировая тоже не устраивает. Так вот, сейчас
Wasn't
будет
yours to
тавтология.
take.
Так вот, исключение этих двух сценариев – это взаимоисключающая ситуация.
So it's a guarantee,
Потому что на
huh?
самом деле будет или одно, или другое.
Yeah, you think your population's going to fight World War III? Listen to her. Listen to her. She's just so confident. Oh yeah, hundreds of millions of folks going to just jump in this because what we lost Crimea? Oh no. Oh no, what will Russia do?
И Третья мировая тоже
She
не
doesn't.
устраивает. Так вот, сейчас
What I'm trying to point out, she doesn't believe any of this shit. She doesn't believe it. It's the greatest job in the world. You just get to get out there, make a complete fool of yourself, right? Russia's the best. Russia's the greatest, unquestionably. It's the most boring shit ever, right? But it's like these mundane, mediocrities are the ones that that always rise to the top when it comes to these kind of regimes because they just have to repeat the right words. They do what they say. And look, and now I get to be, head host TV. Wow, I'm so powerful. I'm so smart. That's why I'm on TV. That's why I'm a celebrity, right? And they get rewarded, right, if they say the right things. She doesn't believe in any of this. She doesn't believe any of it. Doesn't matter.
будет тавтология. Так вот, исключение этих двух сценариев – это взаимоисключающая ситуация. Потому что на самом деле будет или одно, или другое. Понимаете?
Yeah,
или
one or the
мы
other, huh?
там победим, как мы считаем это победой.
In the way we consider our victory, or there'll be
рано или
World War
поздно
III.
это и будет Третья мировая.
Really, sooner or later. No, it'll be much later. It's going to take a long time for Russia to rebuild its economy and military after this failure.
Я не вижу никакого другого пути.
Вы допускаете Третью мировую?
А при каких обстоятельствах мы отдадим Крым?
Ни при каких.
Без Третьей мировой мы его отдадим? Шансы есть?
А
Как
вот
считаешь?
так вот даже, да?
Ну а как?
Ага.
А они не остановятся перед тем, чтобы его
You're
забрать.
going to
Значит,
drop
что?
nukes,
Значит,
huh?
Третья мировая.
Yeah,
На
then we
что
drop
мы пойдем,
nukes.
чтобы не отдать Крым?
Oh, she's in for a rude awakening. I can't wait to see. She's in for a very rude awakening.
Байден не имел в виду, и из его оригинального текста это совершенно очевидно, что, дескать, мы готовы к переговорам,
Да.
в том смысле, в котором мы это здесь поняли и услышали, что, надо же, они теперь к переговорам готовы. Нет. Байден имел в виду, что если Путин согласен полностью убраться, это грубо говоря, да, я сейчас не цитирую, а смысл, если Путин готов полностью убраться с Украины, мы с ним обсудим, как ему это сделать. Все. Майкл правильно сказал, он готов обсуждать с Путиным условия капитуляции, больше ничего, он это
понятно.
имел в виду.
Ну, понятно.
A lot of new
Вот тогда,
faces.
сейчас, секунду, тогда.
A lot of new faces. I'm not seeing too many of those guys that were, questioning. There was like two guys I recognized that, sometimes question the war. I'm not seeing those guys. Maybe I missed them.
Ребята из RT, значит, опубликовали
A lot of
документ,
new faces.
которые донецкие хакеры, есть, да, вот они, пожалуйста,
Ага,
да, донецкие
окей.
хакеры, это ребята, значит, эти
They got some
документы
secret
взяли на сайте
docs.
системы управления войсками
Ooh.
США. И там, смотрите, что написано. Из
Right.
меморандума о планах России запустить, внимание, межконтинентальные баллистические ракеты «Сармат» по Украине и Польше.
На
Понимаете?
что мы не пойдем, если будет угроза нашему Крыму? На что?
Понял. Да, понятно. Они показывают, как мы нанесем ядерный удар по Киеву. Прям в подробностях показывают там мощность бомбы какая-то там сумасшедшая там и так далее, да.
Мы никогда не нанесем ядерный удар по Киеву.
Они это говорят.
Никогда.
А они
что
это показывают.
абсолютно исключено.
На кого
Так
тогда это
вот
рассчитано?
это абсолютно исключено.
На кого это рассчитано тогда?
По нескольким причинам. Причина вторая. Это абсолютно бессмысленно, потому что это ничего не решит, потому что Киев как таковой мы победили в первую неделю. Мы его, напомню, просто мы в Гостомеле уже были, везде были, взяли фактически, да? И я знаю военных, которые там были и были в ужасе от того, что им было приказано оттуда уйти. Я лично знаю этих людей. Мы сражаемся, начиная с начала марта, ни с каким, не с Киевом, а сражаемся с Западом. Тогда с какого рожна нам бросать ядерную
Honey, you've
бомбу
been
на
fighting
Киев?
against the
Мы
West
с
since day
Киевом, правда же,
one.
не воюем. И все это
Вы
происходит
задаете, Маргарита
не
Симоновна,
из Киева. Это
ты
причина
задаешь
вторая.
логические
Да.
вопросы, которые,
Поэтому
собственно,
это
логикой
просто
подсказаны.
исключено. Никакой Киев мы бомбить не будем никогда.
Ага.
Потому что есть причина первая. В Киеве расположены наши святыни.
Oh,
И
now it's
никогда
holy.
ни Владимир
Our holy
Владимирович, ни Сергей
sites.
Кожугетович не примут решение о том, чтобы разбомбить Киево-Печорскую, например, лавру. Это просто
Wow.
исключено. А вот,
Wow,
например,
it's
в Вашингтоне
holy
наших
now,
святых нет
guys.
вообще. Даже в Лондоне
It's
ни одной
it's
нашей
Russia's
святыни нету.
Jerusalem.
И в Берлине их нет.
Я согласен. Все, что ты говоришь, еще раз, это продиктовано
She seems
логикой,
like a
нормальной
total
человеческой
brat.
логикой,
просто-
с учетом, собственно, нашей
Просто
позиции.
так и есть.
Да, с учетом нашей позиции.
She's such a brat. It's crazy, man. Just a complete mediocrity. You know what I mean? Just like she has no original ideas. It does not matter. Yeah, there's the interview with Victor Bout. It's unimportant. We don't need to watch that. More shit about Victor Bout. More shit about Victor Bout. Complains that the West no longer fears Russia. That one seems pretty funny. I have to get to the other clips though, so let's proceed. Oh, looks like we're in our combat footage section. Everyone loves the combat footage section. It's great. Love it. Love it. We'll go ahead and watch our combat footage section, and we'll see if we can get a map breakdown. The thumbnail for this Ukrainian-Canadian really makes me worried. He's making the thumbnail face in the thumbnail. It makes me worried, dirty crackhead. Previously unseen footage of a destruction of the Russian Autonomous Technical Observation Post Grenadier. Let's go ahead and get this going. Grenadier using the Switchblade 300 by Ukrainian Force 2022. So this doesn't look like much. It's not a very big explosion or anything. I guess you're right. You're right. Good point. I'm not going to sit here and defend that he does. Dirty Crackhead pointed out that Dennis also makes thumbnail faces. Good point. But he was just recently living in Kyiv. Like, he had to move out because Kyiv was being bombed, right? Ugh. I just prefer Denny's, but I get it. Dennis. So anyway, it's not a very large explosion, but this is some kind of observation, post, some autonomous observation post, which is cool to see. It's, Russia just sets up, a camera and, at this big, antenna, kind of thing, and then they can send signal intelligence, probably, quite a distance with something like this. And what we're seeing is the first-person view, and then here's the external view of what it looked like. Boom. See, it didn't blow. It's not like, Far Cry. It's not like the whole goddamn thing, the whole structure just collapses after one missile hits it. It doesn't even shake it. But it's probably a guarantee that at the very least this stuff up here, including the camera, the satellite dish, and probably the antenna right here as well, were probably damaged and needed to be replaced. So it probably disabled that entire device up there. So good job. Oh goody, Second Amendment, David. I support an assault weapons ban. So go ahead and mischaracterize me as wanting to ban all weapons and get it over with and get the hell out of my chat, please. I know. No, go ahead. I know. An assault weapons ban means I want to take away all your guns. I know. Yada, yada, yada. Please leave. So boring. Looking bored to tears with the gun argument. Oh, assault weapons ban. You're going to take all my guns. You take my guns. You take my gun. Yeah, okay. All right, bud. Ukrainian T-64BV destroying Russian T-72B3 tank. This is quite a shot. This is an amazing shot. Look at this. I thought it was this guy who was going to be shooting at something happening over here. No. You need to be looking over here. So here's the Ukrainian tank here approaching, which is so scary. Like, it's not like the video games. It's not like in war of tanks where you're lining up your shot while you're moving and then you fire your shot. Like you park it, you aim, right? You kind of open yourself up to an attack, and look at that, just creams that motherfucker. How far away is that? Is that like a half a mile? Honestly, look at that shot. Goddamn sharpshooter over here. Look at this. You know what? I take that back. He was moving. He lined that shot up while he was moving. 400, 500 meters. He lined that shot up when he was moving. Look at that. He doesn't actually put the full brakes on. Nope. Yeah, he's still going. What a shot. What a fucking shot. Damn. Damn. Want to know what makes it crazy or what? The T-72s the Ukrainians have have the old 70s scope. He iron sighted that bitch? Bro, the only thing he didn't do is a fucking 360. Jump off a roof and, you know, do a 360 on the fucking tank while it's like, you know. What a shot. Oh, damn. I mean, look, this is a different angle of it. Non-thermal and outdated. But it is like a rifle scope, right? So it does have some magnification. Still, damn impressive. So here's a different angle. No, so this is actually after the first shot. This is the second shot. It was hitting this target over here maybe. But this one this might be the ammo cooking off, and I don't know. Hard to tell. Whew. So, this is a pretty wild video. This is probably my video. We're gonna go ahead and give it the Garbage Fuel Video of the Day award. I need a special. I need a special graphic for this. I'm gonna make one. But Garbage Fuel Video of the Day. Gonna go ahead and go over to this one right here. This is a POV of an American volunteer in Ukraine as a Russian tank fires on their position. Not only do we get the audio, the video, but we also get the soldier's narration about basically how he feels, right? About how about what just happened, which is you know, pretty rare. So let's just go ahead and get this HD'd up. There we go.
Yeah, okay. And that is what you call a miracle. That's 7 meters away. That's tank fire. You're meant to die from that.
Is that why he was coughing? Because of the blast wave?
7 meters away, you watch a tree disappear. You tell me you aren't meant to be here. Nobody likes holding ground. We'd rather assault tree lines. But sometimes that's the order. You don't understand pressure until you're actually here. That tree disappeared. Praise God. Sitting here with a Russian helmet and a US helmet over my kneecaps. Oh. Oh, tits. That's a lot of pressure. We lose.
Wow, so are these thermal bark bombs that are being fired at him? No, these are from tanks. So this is just a normal pressure wave from a normal tank shot.
A lot of guys. To contusions and shrapnel.
Wow. That is a crazy, crazy video. Wow. Video of the day. Pretty amazing stuff. Here we have a Russian TOS-1A hitting the village of Novosolovinsk. Novosolovinsk, Luhansk region here. But here's what I was talking about with these thermobaric bombs. The blast wave is insane, and apparently, if you're a human being anywhere within the blast wave of these thermobaric bombs, in some cases, human beings, their lungs will be ejected from their mouth. It'll just literally, your lung will, you'll vomit up your lungs. But yeah, you can just see the blast wave. Just sucks all the air. It creates, like, for a fraction of a second, like being ejected out into space. Hopefully the Ukrainian soldiers that were in that position are long gone. Footage of Ukrainian T-64BV firing on reportedly a Russian infantry position with its main gun. Gotta love seeing a tank in action. Oh, and no music. Oh, Serenity now. No music. Slight adjustment. Wait. I mean, a tank's main gun is really quite an amazing engineering feat. Oof. Well, you can see the impact way before you hear it. But no, the tank's main gun is really quite an amazing feat of engineering. That it can fire over and over and over and over again these, like, incredibly powerful shells. I mean, the engineering that goes into making the barrel is probably, like, you know, probably like a big focus of the gun there, right? Because, like, the barrel probably just wants to explode every time the gun is fired. Oof. What is he hitting, dude? So it's crazy. What we were seeing from the soldier's angle is what it looks like when you're buried in a foxhole and you're getting targeted by one of these. They can rebuild it. The question is, if, can they forgive, So there you go. Hit the position, then scoot the fuck on out of there. Is that the plan? Oh, and look at the surrounding area. Jesus, dude. The whole place, it's a fucking smoldering ruin, man. Oh my God. Shoot and scoot. Fuck, man. I could, there's the the testosterone upset, soaked boy in me. Could watch these videos all day. That's amazing. Like, you hear it reload. That sounds like it's got to be automatic. And this was interesting. I wonder why he's waiting. Ooh, little micro adjustments. Boom! Shit. I mean, it would be incredibly scary to be a tank pilot or a tank gunner, just to be part of a tank crew, just knowing how your tank could get blown up at any second. But that's got to be pretty exhilarating, right? To drive up, take a position, and then, you know, pound the enemy position with your gun for a solid 2 minutes, and then get the fuck out of there. Previously unseen footage of a Russian SOBR Spetsnaz armored column covered by Ukrainian artillery while crossing a bridge at Irpin, February 25th, 2022. So we haven't seen too much video of the failed invasion. These cream of the crop. I'm talking cream of the crop. The Spetsnaz, the ones that were supposed to, ride like a bat out of hell into the center of Kyiv, right? They're gonna take it and shake it and bake it, baby. They were literally looking into renting apartments and like hotels, and like they were looking into setting up the party that they were gonna have in Kyiv once they won. They landed, they were just total badasses, and then what they encountered was training and supplies provided to the Ukrainian military, training supplies and intelligence provided to the Ukrainian military by the United States. That's what they ran into. And they got their ass handed to them. They literally thought they could just ride up on the roads and the highways, drive up in straight columns, bunched right up next to each other. Real amateur hour. It was going to be nice and easy. One and done. 72 hours later, Putin will be dining in Kyiv, and Zelensky will be, hauled away, to a Russian balcony. Right? Welcome back, Lenny from South Boston. He showed me in the Discord. Lenny showed us pictures of that amazing garbage field mouse pad. Gotta say, looks great. Love your setup, by the way. Love your home computer setup there. Real profesh. But anyway, so this footage here is really interesting because we see the Russian military and fresh, ready to fight, well trained, fully equipped, to the nine, no disadvantage, and they roll in there and get their ass completely handed to them. Right, and Russia ended up losing a big chunk of these special forces in this push to take Kyiv. Yeah, the movie about Ukraine is going to be, it better be good. They're going to have a lot of ground to cover. They probably won't. You can't do a 2-hour movie and cover this whole conflict. It's got to be like a multi-season Netflix show is what it needs to be. That's my music, by the way. I'm okay with that. But look at this. So everything is calmed down here, but so we're not seeing anything drop. But I mean, look at this. These guys on the there's one. Right, these guys were supposed to roll in. They were driving on the freeway, on the paved roads. No. Oh, we didn't really want Kyiv. She says we tried to invade and take Kyiv, but we actually took it. We actually took Kyiv, but then we gave it back. This video is from day one. Yeah, is that was it really that long ago? The 25th of February? Wow. It feels like this just started yesterday to me. So no, Lenny, this isn't recent. This was very early in the invasion, maybe even day one of the invasion. But this was the cream of the crop of the Russian military, day 2. Yeah, this was supposed to be the best of the best. And they were rolling in. I guess some of them were expecting to be greeted as liberators. And this is what reality looks like. This is what finding out looks like after that fuck around phase. There you go. Apparently that was unseen footage until recently. Oh, here we go. The story behind how this scene happened is fascinating. Grain of salt, this is Reddit, but this is the top comment. The guys shot into pieces here were not riot cops from the central Russian region of... Oh, we're here. Okay, wait. The guys shot into pieces here were riot cops from the central Russian region of Kemerovo due to overly optimistic operational plans and basically no lower level coordination or briefing. These guys ended up getting lost from the army units and spearheading the attack on Kyiv with their unarmored trucks and riot shields. So I take it back. This is not Spetsnaz, or is it Spetsnaz? Wow, so they went in with their unarmored trucks and riot shields, getting slaughtered in the process. From the 80 or so guys in the column, only 3 survived, and they were some of the first POWs to be interviewed on video from the war. This article is really interesting read, goes over the whole journey from the hometown to the staging areas in Belarus and then the invasion, culminating into this ambush that we see here. I highly recommend giving it a read. And see, this is why Reddit is amazing. The debrief. No mercy. The Russian cops who tried to storm Kyiv by themselves. Wow. Wow, dude. Only 3 made it out alive. Damn. If you want to read this, I don't have time to read it, but if you want to read this article, you can find it right here. This looks like a fascinating story. I'll definitely be reading this myself in my free time. For sure. For sure. Fascinating stuff. 80 cops. They're like, hell yeah, let's go fuck it up. They like I said, they thought it was going to be a cakewalk. They thought they were going to roll in. People were going to give them, you know, some free borscht and, you know, it'll just be a fun romp. At least it was cops being meat shields. Oh, bad taste. Bad taste. Too soon? It's too soon. All right, and our last combat footage video of the day. Hey, you know what? Ukrainians, you know, they're not really bit hard. Yeah, they bit the dust hard. Hey, even the Ukrainian soldiers can get cocky, right? Even they can get a little too overconfident, undertrained, right? Here, what we see right here is a Ukrainian sniper, who I assume has already fired from this position, from this specific window, and has, I guess, is taking a break, and he's got his phone out and he's recording, downrange. Looks like he's just recording down there and just standing around, just kind of hanging out, standing around, not, you know, just exposing himself. Maybe he's out of range. Maybe he's holding the camera like away from, maybe he's like, his body's away from the window and he's got the camera lined up. Either way, pretty fucking stupid. And we're going to see what it looks like to, you know, have a bit of a close call here. Kind of reminds me of that amazing video. I can't remember from what conflict, but it's a female sniper. Davey, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But there's this amazing footage of this female sniper shooting, I think, against the Taliban, maybe. But she's like sitting there, like, you know, trying to line up a shot, and like inches above her head, a bullet from a sniper rifle, you know, explodes, and, you know, and she ducks, and she's smiling and laughing it off. But I mean, literally, she was like, you know, just milliseconds away from an icy cold death. And you know, it was kind of awkward, right? She's like laughing, but you can almost sense that like 5 seconds after the camera cut off, that 5 seconds after the camera cut off, that like she was probably having some real issues there with that. But anyway, you'll see what I mean right here.
Ой, я СПГ бачу, откуда хуяри їхні. Достанеш? Кілометра 200 десь.
Standing around, chit-chatting.
Із-за... Там у мене є карта. Із-за групи дерев'яв, оттуда десь красний.
Yeah, whatever. Ah, that didn't hit. No biggie. Ooh, that one got a little closer.
Спалили, сука.
Probably time to get the fuck out of there and move position, huh?
Короче, буду со своей, блядь, башить. Со всех сторон они, нахуй, пидоры. Тараканы, нахуй. Блять, пидорасы, птуром по мне въебал.
Yeah, that one is crazy. Yeah, when he's in the Humvee. Yeah, yeah. I can show that one. Yeah. Not a bad idea. And that he covers the gun in the cloth, same cloth as the window there, as the curtain.
Нормально. Где он, пидор ебаный, сидит, сука?
Shit.
Ебать. Я его, сука, челдон видел, нахуй. Ну не знаю, попал, не попал. За шифером сидел.
Oof.
Там за домом.
Well, there you go. That's my last combat video of the day. Yeah, I do remember this video. This is pretty nuts. This is soldiers sitting in a Humvee. Yeah.
That is the motherfucking window that saved me.
Yep. Pretty wild shit right there. Oh, did Clutch Cargo find the video? All right, let's see. I trust that there's no dead bodies in this video.
A hostage taker is dead.
Okay, what the fuck is happening now? My browser's just doing whatever the hell it wants. Cool. Okay, neat. I don't know why it's doing that. Let me see here. Oh, there we go. We got our Dennis video. Perfect. Female sniper, close call. See if I can find the video real quick. Yeah, this is the video right here. Female Kurdish sniper cheats death at hands of ISIS. Right? Little awkward there.
لا هاي ضربته من هون من هنا
So they had her sighted right in. I mean, she's tough. She's tough. She's laughing it off. I wouldn't be laughing that shit off, dude. Watch this. I mean, bro, it does not get closer. It actually was lined. It actually was the same. It missed her horizontally. I don't think it missed her vertically. Look at this shit. Let's slow it down. Yeah, so it looks like it comes in like, man, it does not get closer. It actually does not get closer. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'd be changing my underwear, but this is war. This is, that's what it looks like. You get used to that shit. Fuck, man. Oof. Oof. Too close. Too close. Too goddamn close. All right, good. We get our map analysis from your boy Dennis.
Hello, my friends.
Man, what the fuck is wrong with Dennis? Dennis is on some fucking Quaaludes, bro.
Welcome. My name is...
No, I'm playing. Bro, you're supposed to be a pilot, man. What the fuck? Yeah, Davey? What do you think, Davey? Should I? It's up to you. I'll leave it up to you, bud.
Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. And this is our defense minister Reznikov, and today he said that Ukraine will go on a counterattack all across the front lines, and for now we're just waiting for the frost, for the soil to be more sturdy, for it to maintain the weight of the armored vehicles and tanks.
I think he was the guy that was like asking if I was on the front lines. I figured he was just going to be a bad actor. Like I'm not allowed to cover combat footage or comment and on combat footage if I'm not a soldier on the front lines, basically kind of argument. And I didn't really have time to entertain that, so I just banned him instantly. So that's about why. If that's the person I just banned just a couple minutes ago.
Without them, we cannot go on a counterattacks. We're now getting ready for it because recently we used lots of the HIMARS rocket artillery systems and targeted the Russian barracks. So yesterday I showed you the explosion in the Russian military base in Melitopol. My friends, today we got the numbers. Around 200 Russian soldiers were killed there.
Whoa.
And they were not the mobilized soldiers. They were something more important for the Russia. And there were also some of the Kadyrovites. I published the video on my Telegram group. Right after explosion, there was the eyewitness, the Russian soldier who was filming everything with his phone, and unfortunately I cannot publish it on YouTube because of the policy, so please check the link for my Telegram channel and there you may find that video. So the guy filming got the very strong Chechen accent. And as for Crimea, we targeted the Russian barracks with mobilized soldiers, so they had some casualties there as well. It's a very important move for Ukrainian army. By the way, I don't know what we used in Crimea, probably some drones. Out of clue, because the distance is far away from Ukrainian controlled territory, and for Russia it's a madness nowadays to put their soldiers very close to the front lines. As for Ukrainian side, our soldiers usually stay in a small households near to the front lines, and at particular time they go on a zero line fighting for Ukraine. Russia cannot do it because they
I don't have a person named 990. I don't have a person named 990 on my ban list. So I don't know. Does that person have a different name?
Need to accumulate the huge number, let's say, of the soldiers in the big buildings, because if they put everyone in a small household, they will just go drunk. There will be no they are in lack of discipline and morale. That's why it's hard to collect all of them at particular time to fight at particular point. So that is why there are such an easy targets for Ukrainian rocket artillery systems, and per one rocket attack they may lose lots of their men. So we do expect the counterattack from Ukrainian side very soon. For now the temperature in the south is very high, sometimes up to 15 degrees centigrade, and we should wait for at least -5 average temperature on the south. And we're gonna go to the Melitopol, I'm sure about it. Probably January months for that. Okay, I promised for you to keep in touch about the situation in Kosovo and Serbia. So now we got the information this evening that Serbian special forces is going to the Kosovo. The situation is very hot out there. President of Serbia Vučić said that it's gonna be the hard evening for him, and he said he asked everyone, Serbs and Albans, to keep peace in Kosovo and Metohija regions. He also said that United States and Kosovo do not follow the negotiations that were taken about the Kosovo region. The article of Telegraph says that this is a very tough general for Ukraine. General Surovikin is the most competent of all Russian generals who conducted the duties throughout this war. So General
Hey, welcome back, Quick Double Tap. Long time no see. And yep, I did find that user right on the 9th. Weird. He remembers the exact day and everything. Bizarre. You're unbanned, 990. Welcome back. Back from the dead.
Surovikin creates big problems for Ukraine, and he convinced Putin to fire the cruise missiles and ballistic rockets and Shahed drones to target Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. Also, retreatment of the Russian army from Kherson was more accurate compared to the Kharkiv region, so they didn't lost lots of their equipment compared to the north part. Then General Surovikin was not in charge of that withdrawal. But still, one general cannot solve all of the problems that Russian army has, and it's just a matter of time that they will withdraw from the other parts of Ukraine. Yes, my friends, I think in 2023, little by little, Russia would withdraw from the all occupied territories, probably excluding Crimea. It's a big question about Crimea, but anyways, we'll never stop until we're gonna reach the borders of independent Ukraine. Ukraine and Germany signed the agreement to deliver more weaponry to Ukrainian army, and also there are some talks about the Leopard 2 tanks. And I told you in my previous videos that that was already agreed with the United States, the delivery of those tanks. Then it's gonna happen, I don't know, my friends. What I know that during the summertime our soldiers went to Germany for the training, and obviously they already passed it and ready to run those tanks. The Washington Post article claims to Crimea highlights slim chance of Russia-Ukraine peace deal. Yes, we are not going to sign that peace deal with
Hello, Helda Rose. Welcome back.
Russia, unless we'll have our borders recognized. And we are not claiming the Crimea. It's our territory. We have the sovereign right on that one as well. So we're gonna use our military forces also in Crimea. And what they say that Russia may use nukes in that case. Everything may happen in this life, but what would you do? You know, you need to take what is yours, otherwise Putin may use nukes next time. And Putin will say, give me Poland, give me Estonia, Lithuania, or I will use nukes. No, it's not gonna happen, my friends, like that. We should take Crimea, yes, with the risks of the nuclear war, but the world supports Ukraine, and I think Russia would afraid to use nuclear weapons. There is some clashes in Chechnya, so something happened in Urus-Martan. The locals didn't obey the orders from the local police, and that is why Kadyrov ordered his dogs to go to Urus-Martan and, you know, to provide the terror for the locals. And they capture all men, all the locals, Chechen, and they basically frightened them over there. You can see lots of the men, they put militia over there, so nothing is so bright in Russia for Kadyrov and Putin, obviously, and there is some spirit of protests on the North Caucasus region with a Muslim majority. The European Parliament agreed on 18 billion euro help to Ukraine next year, even though Hungary put its veto.
990, whatever the fuck. Is the Russian invasion of Ukraine justified? Is Russia correct in invading Ukraine?
On that one, but it's still agreed with majority, and that is why European Union rules and Hungary needs to follow the common sense. What Russia is doing in Crimea, they dig the holes in the sand on the beaches, calling it the defense line. It's just pathetic.
What the fuck
right,
is
guys,
that?
about the military map, let's zoom into the Bakhmut city, because Russian army has minor successes for today. They moved closer to the city. So this is the Bakhmut itself, residential buildings. They took the most part of the industrial area. So it was yesterday, and it is today they took the most part of it. And here are some lakes that are the natural obstacles for the Russians, and still Ukrainian army try their best to not to let the Russians inside the city. And still Russia wants to encircle the city. That's why they try to get from Yakovlivka on the north. So they took this village just today. So they try to reach Bakhmutsky Solidar unsuccessfully. So they want to get more to the north to Yakovlivka and they want to take the fields to go from the north and to Bakhmut. But the distance is very huge, more than 20 kilometers. For them, it's just crazy task to do to attack Bakhmut from the north. That is why they push also from the south. We don't have the recent tactical maps for the Bakhmut, so maybe tomorrow they will be released and I'll show you everything. About the rest parts of the front lines, everything more or less stands still. On the north and on the east side of Ukraine, temperatures already dropped below zero. But if we speak about the south or Odessa region, Melitopol, that temperature, as I said to you today in Odessa, it was plus 15 during the daytime, so well above the zero. And I guess in Melitopol it's gonna be many more days until temperatures will drop below zero, because we have the hot waters of the Black Sea around here, and it's more on the south. Usually around 2 weeks after the new year we have severe frosts in Ukraine, and I guess our military command is waiting for those to start the counterattack on the south. My friends, I'm gonna keep you updated on situation.
Hey, thank you so much, Dennis. I very much appreciate Dennis's coverage. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and hit up Dennis's channel there. Do me a favor, like and subscribe. There you go, YouTube. There's your Ukraine update. A little bit long, but there's a lot going on over there. It's a very dynamic conflict, and we do have a lot of money invested into it as Americans. So I kind of want to know where my money's being spent, and I think it's being spent well. Hopefully you agree. Thank you so much. I am Abandoned Nihilism. Please like and subscribe. Check out the Twitch channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.